The wine was deep red. The steak, medium rare. Her dress, shorter than usual, tighter than usual, was the color of betrayal, even if I didn't know it back then. We were sitting in this high-end restaurant downtown, the kind where the waiters smile like they're hiding secrets and the lighting makes everything feel like a dream. Except this wasn't a dream. It was AF ****ing storm waiting to explode. Her name is Madison, and she used to be the kind of woman you build an empire with. At least, I thought she was. Blonde waves, eyes that could sell lies better than any lawyer I knew, and a voice so sweet it could make you forget your own name. But tonight, that sweetness tasted like poison. She was sitting across from me, swirling her wine like nothing was wrong, laughing at dumb stories I'd heard her tell a dozen times before, touching my hand like she still gave a damn. But I already knew. I knew everything. And the show was about to begin. Then the door burst open. People turned. Forks froze midair. A man stumbled inside, sweat pouring off him like he'd just run a marathon through hell. Tyler. That's the name of the bastard she thought I'd never find out about. He looked straight at me, eyes wide, panicked. He was shaking, physically shaking, as he dropped to his knees right there on the hardwood floor, next to the table where I had just toasted to forever with the woman who'd been sneaking behind my back for months. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I didn't know she was your wife. I didn't know, I swear. I didn't mean to." He looked at her then. Madison turned pale. Not red, not flushed. Pale, like every lie she'd told had just clawed its way out of her throat and slapped her in the face. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. She didn't know. She had no idea I knew. She didn't know I'd had him followed. Didn't know I'd hacked her phone. Didn't know I'd intercepted every message, every photo, every filthy voice note she sent him when she thought I was asleep next to her. Didn't know that I'd sent 3 of my guys to his condo that very evening. Didn't know they were probably already inside by now, waiting for my signal to unleash 5 months of rage I'd bottled up while pretending I was okay. Tyler was still on his knees, sobbing like a kid caught stealing cookies. Madison's face twisted, trying to play the role of confused wife, loyal woman, innocent bystander. She whispered, "Babe, what's going on? Who is this guy?" I leaned back in my chair. Calm, cold, like a man who's already buried the emotion and is just waiting for the dirt to hit the casket. "You really gonna lie to me while he's begging for his life in front of your husband?" I asked, voice low. That's when she dropped the act. "Oh my God," she hissed, eyes narrowing. "You're insane. You set this up? What the hell is wrong with you?" "Wrong with me?" She stood up, grabbed her purse like she was about to walk away from the mess she made. But I didn't move. I just sipped my wine and gave her that smile. The one that said, "I'm not your fool anymore." "Madison," I said slowly, "you might want to sit down. This dinner's not over yet." She paused, then did the dumbest thing she could have done. She slapped me. Hard. Every head turned. Tyler was still on the ground, his face buried in his hands. Madison stood over me, breathing heavy, eyes full of venom. The kind only a woman who's been caught red-handed can spit. "I'm not gonna apologize for wanting more," she said loud enough for half the damn restaurant to hear. "You think just because you pay the bills and play the hero, I should worship you? You weren't there for me. He was. That was it." I set down my glass, picked up my phone, and hit send. Across town, my guys got the signal. She noticed. "Too late." "What did you just do?" she asked. "Something you never had the balls to do," I said. I told the truth. And right there, in the middle of that overpriced restaurant, Madison's world started to burn. She didn't know what was waiting for her after dessert. Didn't know about the files I sent to her parents, her boss, her friends. Didn't know that Tyler's apartment was no longer his sanctuary. This was just the first act. And Madison? She was about to find out what happens when you lie to the wrong man. Madison froze. She always had a sharp tongue, always knew how to twist the blade just right when she wanted to win a fight. But this time, silence. Cold, stunned silence. That kind of silence where your lies start echoing inside your own skull. She looked at Tyler, still crumpled on the floor like a wet paper bag, then back at me, and I could see the cracks forming in her perfect little mask. "Tell me this is a joke," she whispered. "You want the punchline?" I leaned forward. "You'll love this part. I even know about the cabin upstate. The one you two used on weekends when I said I was flying to Chicago for work." Her pupils blew wide. She was shaking her head before I even finished the sentence. "Stop. Just stop," she said, her voice rising. "You're being paranoid. You're acting crazy. You're ruining everything. Me? I laughed. You blew everything up, Madison. You just didn't think I'd be the one lighting the match tonight. She clenched her fists, trying to stay composed, but it was slipping. Her shoulders tensed, her lip quivered, and for the first time, I saw the fear behind all that arrogance. She knew I wasn't bluffing. Tyler finally managed to get to his feet. He looked wrecked. His shirt was half untucked, his eyes bloodshot, and his hands trembling like a junkie in withdrawal. Please, he muttered, barely looking at me. I didn't know she was married. She told me she was separated, that you were abusive, man, that she was just stuck. I almost laughed. Typical Madison move, play the victim. Rewrite reality until she's the innocent one. She said what? I asked, keeping my voice calm. But there was a twitch in my eye that he must have seen, because he flinched like I'd hit him. I swear, he said, his voice cracking. I wouldn't have touched her if I knew. You touched her in my bed. I cut him off. While my dog was locked outside. I saw the camera feed. Tyler, don't give me this innocent act. That broke him. He turned to Madison. You told me it was over. You said he was a monster. Madison finally snapped. Oh, grow up, Tyler, she spat, eyes flashing. You're acting like you didn't love every minute of it. You think I owe you something? You're just a bartender with abs. I used you. That right there? That was the moment I realized something brutal. She didn't even care about him. Not really. Not even a little. She cheated on me, trashed our marriage, risked everything we built, and it wasn't even for love. It was for ego, for power, for her own selfish little thrill. And Tyler? He looked like she'd just shoved a knife through his chest. He stumbled backward, stunned. He tried to speak, but his mouth just opened and closed like a fish out of water. That's when Madison turned to me again. You think you've won? She hissed. You think this little dinner scene is some kind of victory? You'll regret this, Nathan. I swear to God you will. I stood up slowly. Calm. Steady. Maybe, I said. But tonight, I'm not the one who has to beg. She laughed, cold and bitter, and said something that burned like acid. I should have done it sooner. That's when I walked away. Not because I was weak, but because the show was over, and I was done giving her the spotlight. Outside, the night air felt like ice. I lit a cigarette I'd promised I'd quit, and dialed one number. Phase 2, I said. Make it loud. Then I hung up. Inside the restaurant, screams started. Tyler's phone was lighting up with photos, screenshots of the two of them in places they thought no one knew about. Videos, voice messages, all being leaked live. I didn't need revenge. I was revenge. And Madison? She was just getting started. The first video leaked before I reached my car. It was one of the earlier ones, grainy footage from a hidden camera I had installed in the guest bedroom. Madison, wrapped in a towel, laughing as she whispered into her phone, "He's in another city again. We've got 3 hours. Bring the wine." Tyler's voice followed. You sure he won't come back early this time? And her reply, clear as crystal, Nathan's predictable. Always trying to be the provider. He doesn't have a clue. Guess I wasn't so predictable anymore. The footage hit a private server first. Only a few select people had access. My lawyer, her boss, my parents, hers too. I didn't need the whole world to see, just the ones whose opinions she pretended to care about. I could already imagine her father's face. Old school man, believed in loyalty, in honor. He'd once pulled me aside and said, "Take care of her, Nathan. She's wild, but she's yours." Yeah, wild didn't even begin to cover it. I slid into my car, the one she never liked because it wasn't flashy enough. Black interior. Clean. No perfume lingering in the air this time. Just leather and silence. I drove. No destination. Just movement. Because stillness made the rage louder. My phone vibrated again. Photo. Tyler and Madison. In a hot tub. Her in that tiny red bikini I bought her 2 birthdays ago. Said she'd never wear it because it was too much. Funny. Didn't look like too much when she was straddling him in the water. Another video. This one from the cabin. God, you're so much better than him, Madison panted in the clip. I didn't watch the rest. I didn't need to. I already lived that nightmare for months, knowing she was somewhere else, moaning someone else's name, while I was at home figuring out which paint to use in our new nursery. Yeah, we were trying for a kid. Or I was, anyway. That's what cut deepest. Not the cheating. Hell, people cheat. But the performance, the acting, the lies layered on lies while she held my hand and told me she couldn't wait to be a mom. That's why I burned it all. I didn't just want her exposed. I wanted every mask ripped off, every smile she faked, every compliment she tossed my way like breadcrumbs. All of it turned to ash. So I gave my guy the go-ahead to unlock the backup folder. Dozens of files. Dates, times, locations, photos, receipts. Every moment she'd been unfaithful, backed by evidence you couldn't ignore. Her reputation? Over. Her job? About to be gone. Her cushy life? Paid for by my sweat and years of sacrifice? History. But the thing is, even with all that fire behind me, I didn't feel better. I pulled over, somewhere near the bridge, stared out at the water for a while, tried to breathe, because revenge doesn't patch holes. It only stops the bleeding. And right now, I was bleeding from every part of my damn soul. That's when the second call came in. It was from Madison. I stared at the screen. Didn't answer. She called again. And again. I let them ring out. She finally texted. Please. We need to talk. Not like this. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I almost laughed. She meant it. Every moan. Every whisper. Every time she told him, I wish he'd just disappear. I turned off the phone. Then I drove back home. Not to talk. Not to forgive. But to pack. Because phase 2 was over. And phase 3? That would happen face to face. I parked the car in silence. The porch light was still on. Automatic timer, like everything else in this house. Predictable. Just like she always said I was. But not tonight. Tonight, I was the storm she never saw coming. The front door opened as I stepped onto the porch. Madison stood there barefoot, wearing one of my old t-shirts. The one with the faded concert logo from that weekend in Miami, back when we were still us. Her hair was tied up like she'd been crying. But with her, even the tears felt like part of the costume. Nathan, she whispered, arms folded like she was cold. She wasn't. She was scared. Good. I brushed past her without a word. My shoes thudded against the hardwood floor she picked out. The smell of cinnamon still hung in the air, left over from the scented candles she lit to make the house feel like a home. A home she'd poisoned. She followed me inside, barefoot steps barely audible. Please, she said. Can we just talk? This isn't how I wanted things to go. I turned to her, my face calm, but my hands curled into fists. You mean Tyler begging for his life on his knees in a restaurant? That wasn't your plan. She flinched. I didn't know he'd do that. He's dramatic. I blinked. Once. Madison, the man sobbed in front of 50 strangers because he thought I was going to have him killed. She looked away. Well, were you? I stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. Would it matter to you if I was? She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because the truth was, all she cared about was how it looked. Not what she did. Not how it gutted me from the inside out. Just the optics. The fallout. The same way she carefully curated her life. The perfect wife. The perfect smile. The Instagram captions about love and trust. What a joke. You hacked my phone, she said suddenly, shifting to the only ground she thought she had. You invaded my privacy. That's abuse. I laughed in disbelief. You used our bed like a brothel, I snapped. And I'm the abuser? She opened her mouth, closed it again, then walked to the kitchen, trying to regain control, like this was a normal night, and she was just going to pour a glass of wine and fix everything with a conversation. Tyler was a mistake, she said as she pulled down a glass. It started when you were gone so much. You stopped touching me. You were married to your business, Nathan. I stepped into the kitchen slowly. Don't you dare blame this on my ambition. You think I wanted this? She hissed, finally turning to face me. You think I planned to fall into someone else's arms? I felt alone, Nathan. I felt unwanted. You were always busy fixing everyone's problems but mine. And instead of telling me, I said, voice low, you lied to me. For months. Her hands were shaking now. You don't understand what it's like, being ignored, feeling like you're not enough. I stared at her hollow. And what about me, Madison? What about waking up at 2 a.m. and wondering why your wife smells like someone else's cologne? What about lying in bed while you're in the shower texting him under the water? Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't move me. She tried to touch my arm. I stepped back. No more lies. No more fake tears. I came here to pack. You can keep the house. I've already moved the money. You'll hear from my lawyer. Her mouth dropped open. You're leaving? I already left, I said. The moment I realized the woman I loved was gone. She crumbled into a chair. But I didn't stay to watch her fall apart. I went upstairs, opened the closet, and started packing. Not clothes. documents, drives, evidence. Because this wasn't over. It was war now. And I don't lose wars. The thing about betrayal? It doesn't stab you in the chest. It slides in slow, like a whisper in the dark. You don't even feel the blade until your hands are already soaked in your own blood. Upstairs, I moved like a machine. I had a plan. I always have a plan. Drawer by drawer, I gathered everything she didn't think I noticed. Her second phone, hidden behind a stack of scarves. The burner SIM cards. The black lace lingerie she told me didn't fit right, but somehow always made it into her weekend bags when she visited her sister. Evidence. All of it. I tossed it into a duffel bag. No hesitation. No emotion. Downstairs, I could hear her still in the kitchen, crying soft, fake little sobs, like maybe she thought I'd come comfort her, that I'd fall for one more performance. But this wasn't a movie. This was a crime scene, and she was the main suspect. I found the last thing tucked behind a picture frame on her side of the closet. A handwritten note. Old, but not forgotten. It was addressed to Tyler. You make me feel alive. He doesn't even see me anymore. I dream about a life with you. Sometimes I wish he'd just disappear. There it was. Black and white. Proof that this wasn't some emotional mistake or one-time thing like she'd try to claim in therapy. She wanted me gone. Dead or erased, didn't matter. She wanted freedom. Well, I was about to give it to her. I zipped the bag shut, walked downstairs, and found her sitting on the couch like a statue, glass of red wine in one hand, mascara smeared like war paint. You really packed? She asked, her voice flat. Yeah. She swirled the wine, took a sip, then gave me a look I'd never forget, half smirk, half smolder. You're overreacting, she said. So what? I got a little attention somewhere else. You think you're the only man who's ever been cheated on. I blinked. You're unbelievable. No, she said, rising to her feet. I'm honest. Finally, you were never going to give me what I needed. You just wanted a trophy wife who smiled in public and kept quiet in private. I wanted a partner, I snapped. Someone who didn't keep secrets, didn't spread her legs every time I went out of town. She walked right up to me, inches from my face. And you think Tyler was the only one? My blood ran cold. That smug little tilt of her head. The proud, wicked gleam in her eye. You're lying, I said quietly. Her smile widened. You sure about that? I took a step back. My pulse was in my ears now, pounding like war drums. She leaned closer, voice low and syrupy. Maybe you should have spent less time with your spreadsheets and more time watching your back. There are things about me you never bothered to learn. My fingers twitched. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a game, and I'd only been playing half of it. I looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. Not the Madison I married. Not the woman who held my hand at funerals or danced barefoot in the kitchen. No, this was someone else. A snake in my bed. A wolf in silk. You're proud of this? I asked. She shrugged. I'm not ashamed. I let out a slow breath. Good, I said, opening the front door. Because when everything falls apart tomorrow, you won't have the luxury of shame. She laughed. Actually laughed. Don't make threats, Nathan. You're not built for war. I looked back at her once more, memorizing the monster behind the beautiful face. You're right, I said. Then I walked out. But I am built for revenge. The next morning, the world knew who Madison really was. I didn't have to lift a finger. The systems I'd built over the past 5 months handled everything for me. Timed releases, delayed emails, anonymous drops. One by one, the files hit the inboxes of everyone who mattered to her. Her job, her family, her friends, her yoga instructor, even her smug little book club that sipped overpriced wine and preached empowerment while secretly backstabbing each other over brunch. I watched it all from a distance, coffee in hand, like a director at the premiere of a masterpiece. First came the company email. A PDF labeled, "For HR review, conduct outside the workplace." Inside, screenshots of her messages with Tyler. Photos in her office after hours. A security cam clip from the lobby. Her kissing him in front of the building after hours. She always said, keep work and personal life separate. Guess she forgot her own rules. Then came the private group chat leaks. Madison had been trashing her coworkers for months, calling them idiots, losers, and jealous nobodies. She even had a few things to say about her boss's wife, things that no one comes back from. By noon, she was suspended. By 2 p.m., the company scrubbed her photo from their site. By 4 p.m., She was trending, locally, but still. Scandal at Denridge Financial. A headline she never expected. Her perfect, polished mask was melting in public. She called me 10 times. Then her sister tried. Then her father. I ignored them all. I wasn't hiding. I was watching. And as her life unraveled, I didn't feel satisfaction exactly, but I felt clarity. This wasn't just revenge. This was a reset. At 6 p.m., my phone buzzed again. One new message. Madison, we need to talk. Please. I'm at my parents'. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would go this far. Go this far? She started this. All I did was finish it. But something inside me, some stupid leftover instinct from the man I used to be, still wanted closure. So I replied. Me, tomorrow. 9 a.m. My place. Be honest for once. The reply came instantly. Madison, I will. I swear. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from guilt. From clarity. Everything made sense now. The late nights. The fake smiles. The times she claimed to be working late and came home with perfume that wasn't hers. My gut had been screaming for months, and I kept silencing it, kept trying to fix what was already poisoned. But no more. This time, I wasn't walking in circles. I was walking forward. The next morning came fast. I stood in the kitchen, watching the clock. 8:58, then 9:01, then the knock. I opened the door. Madison stood there, wearing a hoodie, no makeup, eyes red and puffy. She stepped inside quietly. We didn't hug, didn't speak. Not at first. She looked around the house like it was unfamiliar, like she was visiting a life that had moved on without her. You destroyed me, she finally whispered. I raised an eyebrow. I exposed you. You destroyed yourself. She swallowed hard. Is this really the end? I nodded once. You made your choice. I just made it loud. Tears welled up again. But I didn't move. I'd seen her cry before. I knew what was real and what was a performance. I just didn't think you had it in you, she said. That's the problem, I replied. You never really knew me. She sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, the one we used to curl up on during movie nights. Now she looked like a stranger in her own house. I want to explain, she said. You've got 10 minutes, I said flatly. She looked up, broken. 10 minutes. That's more than you gave our marriage. And with that, she began to talk. But I didn't hear an apology. I heard a story she was still trying to control. But this time, I wasn't buying it. She sat there on the edge of the couch like it was a stage, and she was auditioning for sympathy. Shoulders slumped, voice trembling, just enough to appear fragile, but not enough to seem weak. She was still playing a role, still hoping she could rewrite the ending if she cried hard enough. Tyler didn't mean anything, she began, eyes fixed on her hands. It was just, I felt invisible. You were always busy, always somewhere else. I started feeling like a guest in my own marriage. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. And your solution to that, I said, was to turn our home into a playground for strangers? She didn't flinch, just stared at her fingers like they held the answers to a life she'd shattered. It wasn't just about him, she continued. It was about me. I lost myself. I didn't recognize who I was anymore. I was lonely, Nathan. And when you're lonely long enough, even the worst decisions start to feel like survival. I chuckled. Cold. Survival? Madison, you weren't stuck on a desert island. You had everything. A house, freedom, loyalty, and you threw it away for a man who cries in restaurants. Her jaw tightened, just for a second. I know you hate me, she said. No, I replied. Hate is for people who still have real estate in your heart. You're just noise now. She blinked back more tears, pulled out her last card. I think I'm pregnant. Silence. It was a calculated bomb, and she dropped it like a professional, no build-up, no warning. Just boom. I stared at her, unmoving. Whose is it? I asked. She didn't answer right away. And that pause? That damn hesitation? That told me everything I needed to know. I don't know, she whispered. I nodded slowly. You know what the worst part is? I said. It's not the betrayal. Not even the affair. It's that you stood in front of me every day, looked me in the eye, and made me believe I was safe with you. She wiped at her cheek. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said. Over and over. And now you want to play victim because I refused to stay quiet? You humiliated me. No, Madison, I said, stepping forward. You humiliated yourself. All I did was pull back the curtain. She stood up then, trying to reclaim a fraction of the control she used to own so easily. Are you seriously going to throw away everything we built? I laughed once, bitterly. You threw it away the second you let another man into our life. Her face hardened. So that's it. That's it. And if I am pregnant, then I pity the child, I said, because their mother is the most selfish person I've ever known. She opened her mouth, probably to spit fire, but I held up a hand. Don't, I said. Just don't. The silence between us was deafening. No music, no background noise, just the thick, suffocating tension of two people standing in the ruins of what used to be love. Then, finally, she turned, walked toward the door. She hesitated, just for a second, like maybe she thought I'd stop her, like maybe I'd give her one last chance. I didn't. She walked out. No goodbyes, no apologies that mattered, just the sound of the door closing behind her. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the house felt like mine again. Empty, quiet, but mine. There was one part left. The paperwork, the final nail. But emotionally, I'd already buried her. And the man she cheated on? He died with the marriage. Who I became next? She had no idea. It's strange how quiet freedom sounds. After Madison walked out that day, I stood in the living room for what felt like an hour. No movement, no emotion, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just surround you, it presses on you. Heavy, final. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. I'd burned down everything she built out of lies, ruined the affair, exposed her secrets, walked away with my dignity intact and the truth on my side. But here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It doesn't fix the hole. It just stops the bleeding long enough for you to see how deep the wound really goes. I slept on the couch that night, not because the bed reminded me of her, but because I didn't want to share that space with any memory of what she turned our bedroom into. The sheets were clean. The room was untouched. But in my mind, I could still see him. Tyler, his hands on her, her face twisted in a way I'd never seen when we were together. That haunted me more than the betrayal itself. The image of who she became when I wasn't looking. I stayed home for a week, closed my laptop, shut off the phone. I let the world keep spinning without me. Let her deal with the headlines, the job loss, the whispers from friends and family. It wasn't my burden anymore. I started taking walks in the morning, hood up, headphones in, eyes down. Just me, my steps, and the realization that I'd spent years with someone who wore a mask better than any actor in Hollywood. I met a neighbor I'd never spoken to before, an old man named Franklin, Vietnam vet, widowed. He saw me one morning sitting on the front porch with a coffee and a 1,000-yard stare. He didn't ask what happened. He just said, "You know, the first time I got shot, I didn't even feel it. Too much adrenaline. It's the hours after that hurt." He nodded once, then walked away. And just like that, a complete stranger gave me more honesty in one sentence than Madison did in 5 years. I started rebuilding slowly. Not with women, not with parties, with truth. I opened a private journal, filled pages with every lie I ever ignored. Every time I smiled when I should have spoken up. Every damn time I thought, maybe I'm just being paranoid, while she looked me in the eye and told me, "You're all I want." I burned every one of her letters. Sold the watch she gave me for our anniversary. Donated her designer clothes to a women's shelter under a fake name. I didn't want souvenirs of a life that wasn't real. And then, one morning, about 3 weeks after it all exploded, I got a message from Tyler. "Tyler, I left town. Got jumped the same night you sent those guys. Guess I deserved it. Just wanted you to know I'm out of your life. Forever." I stared at the message. Thought about replying. Thought about unloading everything on him. How he wrecked my world. How I wanted him to suffer. But instead, I blocked the number. He wasn't worth the ink. None of them were. This wasn't about them anymore. This was about me. About who I would become now that the storm had passed and the smoke had cleared. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I forgave her. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because the truth is, I'll never get back the man I was before she broke me. But I can choose who I become next. And that man, he'll never fall for a mask again. Not ever.